I always thought I knew my family. I thought I understood the kind of people they were. Cold, proud, sometimes cruel, but predictable. I was wrong. The truth about who they really were didn't come crashing into my life until after my mother's funeral, when I found the box. The day started quietly, too quietly, the kind of silence that feels heavy, pressing against your chest. The house was filled with people, but not with warmth. My uncles, aunts, and cousins had already moved in like vultures after a fresh kill, circling the old house with greedy eyes. They weren't mourning my mother. They were waiting to see what she left behind, what they could take, what scraps of her life they could claim as their own. I sat in the kitchen, my hands wrapped around a cold cup of coffee. The walls still smelled faintly of her cooking, of cinnamon and warm bread. She'd been gone only a week, but it felt like the world had lost its anchor. "Are you just going to sit there?" My cousin Lydia sneered as she passed by. She carried an armful of old silverware, her eyes glittering with triumph. "If you don't start taking what you want, don't cry later when it's gone." I ignored her. That was always the safest thing to do with my family. They thrived on conflict, on little battles for dominance. But my mother had been different. She was soft in a world of sharp edges, and that softness had protected me for years. Now she was gone, and I was alone. After hours of listening to the sound of drawers being ransacked and furniture dragged across floors, I slipped away. Something was tugging at me, an invisible thread pulling me upstairs, to the attic. The air grew colder as I climbed the narrow staircase. Dust swirled in the light from a small round window. The attic was cluttered with boxes, trunks, and forgotten furniture, but it felt different, as if the room itself had been waiting for me. I don't know how long I searched, running my hands across the spines of old photo albums, peering into cardboard boxes filled with yellowing papers. Then I saw it, a small wooden chest, tucked behind an old rocking chair, half covered with a moth-eaten quilt. It was darker than the other boxes, polished smooth, with brass corners that had dulled with age. I pulled it out, and as I did, something caught my eye, a piece of paper taped to the underside. My name, written in my mother's handwriting. My breath hitched. My mother had left something here for me, hidden it away from the greedy hands downstairs. But the chest was locked. I shook it, listening for a rattle, but it was heavy and silent. No key in sight. My hands trembled as I traced the edges. Why would she hide something like this? And why leave it for me? Before I could think too long, I heard footsteps on the stairs. I shoved the chest back into its hiding spot and yanked the quilt over it. Just in time. "Up here, are you?" It was my Uncle Peter. His smile was thin, wolfish. "There's nothing up here worth keeping. Come downstairs. We're talking about the will." My stomach twisted. The will. The lawyer sat in the living room, his briefcase perched neatly on the coffee table. My family had gathered like an audience waiting for a show. Greedy smiles. Nervous fidgeting. I sat in the corner, feeling invisible. The lawyer cleared his throat and began. My mother had left small, practical things to various relatives. Jewelry here, kitchenware there. Nothing of real value. I could feel the disappointment ripple through the room like a wave. "And to my son," the lawyer continued. My heart thumped in my chest. But he read only one line. "He already knows where to look." My family turned toward me, confusion flickering into suspicion. "What does that mean?" Lydia demanded. "Knows where to look for what?" my uncle snapped. I shrugged, trying to appear just as confused as they were. Inside, my mind was spinning. She had been talking about the chest. She had to be. That night, when the house was finally quiet, I crept back to the attic. I carried a flashlight and my mother's old photo album. Something about it had nagged at me all evening. The pages were filled with pictures of us. Birthdays, holidays, quiet afternoons. But one photo, tucked at the back, felt thicker than the rest. I slid my fingernail along the edge and felt something taped inside. A key. My heart raced as I held it in my palm. It was small, brass, worn from years of waiting. I crawled to the wooden chest, unlocked it with shaking hands, and slowly lifted the lid. Inside, Wrapped in faded fabric was a bundle of letters tied with ribbon. Underneath them were documents, and at the very bottom, a photograph I had never seen before. It was of my mother, standing beside a man I didn't recognize. They weren't just standing together. They were holding hands, and behind them a house I had never seen. My chest tightened. My mother had never spoken of another man. My father had left when I was little, but she had never once mentioned anyone else. The first letter was addressed to me. My name again, written in her hand. I unfolded it, my hands trembling, and began to read. My child, if you are reading this, then I am gone, and it is time for you to know the truth about our family. The truth I have hidden to keep you safe. My vision blurred as the words sank in. The truth? Safe from what? I read on, my heart pounding. But before I could finish the first page, I heard a crash downstairs. Raised voices. Footsteps. My family had heard me moving in the attic. I stuffed the letters back into the chest, closed it, and dragged it into the shadows just as the attic door creaked open. Who's up here? Lydia's voice. Sharp. Suspicious. The beam of a flashlight cut across the attic. I held my breath, pressed against the wall, praying they wouldn't see. The box was hidden, for now. But I knew one thing. My mother had hidden secrets in that chest that could change everything. And my family would stop at nothing to find them. I had to get to the truth before they did. I didn't sleep that night. How could I? The wooden chest sat hidden beneath my bed, as if its weight alone was enough to pull me under with it. I kept hearing my mother's voice in my head. It is time for you to know the truth. But what truth? By morning, I couldn't wait any longer. With the house empty, my relatives had gone to meet with the lawyer again. I pulled out the chest and opened it. The bundle of letters was neatly tied. The ribbon faded from age. My fingers shook as I untied it and pulled out the first one. It began simply, "My child, if you are reading this, then I am no longer alive. And I need you to understand something I could not tell you while I was here." I swallowed hard and kept reading. "You have always been told that your father left us when you were young. That is what I allowed you to believe. But the truth is more complicated. The man you call your father was not the man who raised you for the first years of your life. He is not the man in this photograph." I stared again at the picture of her with the stranger, the way their hands touched like two people deeply connected. "This man's name," the letter continued, "is Daniel. He was kind, gentle, and he loved you more than anything. But my family, your uncles, your cousins, they hated him. They hated what he stood for, and they hated the choices I made with him. They forced him away, and when he tried to fight for us, things happened that I can never forgive them for." My chest tightened. My family forced him away? Why? I flipped through the other letters. Some were written directly to me. Others looked like journal entries she had saved for me to read one day. They spoke of whispered arguments, threats behind closed doors, and her constant fear that they would do something to me if she didn't comply with their demands. It didn't make sense. Why would my family hate this man so much? What could he have done to deserve being erased from my life? But one thing was clear, my mother had lived in fear, and she had hidden all of this, carried it like a shadow, to protect me. I didn't hear the front door slam until it was too late. Voices carried up the stairs, angry, impatient. "She knows something," Lydia hissed. "Why else would Aunt have written that in the will? He knows where to look?" She meant him. She always favored him. My heart raced. They suspected me. I shoved the letters back into the chest, locked it, and slid it deep into the closet just as footsteps pounded down the hall. The door flew open. My Uncle Peter stood there, his bulk filling the frame. Lydia trailed behind him, her smile sharp. "What are you hiding?" Peter demanded. His eyes swept the room, searching. "Nothing," I said quickly, trying to sound calm. "I'm just going through Mom's things. Don't lie to me." His voice dropped, low and dangerous. "She left something for you, didn't she? Where is it?" I shook my head. "I don't know what you're talking about." Lydia stepped forward, her voice syrupy. "You're not strong enough to keep secrets from us. You never have been. Just give it to us, and maybe we'll let you keep a piece of whatever it is. I forced myself not to look at the closet, not to betray the truth with my eyes. Finally, Peter growled in frustration and shoved past me, tearing open drawers, tossing clothes onto the floor. Lydia pulled books off the shelf, flipping through them as if a fortune might fall out. My pulse hammered in my ears. Any second they'd find it. But then Peter's phone buzzed. He cursed under his breath, snapped it open, and glared at Lydia. "We'll deal with this later." They stormed out, leaving my room in chaos. I sank to the floor, gasping for breath. They knew I had something, and they wouldn't stop until they found it. That night, I slipped out of the house with the chest hidden under my coat. I couldn't keep it here anymore, not with them breathing down my neck. I went to the only place that felt safe, my childhood friend Emily's apartment. She had been like a sister to me, someone my family never fully accepted, but my mother had always trusted her. When she opened the door and saw my face, she didn't ask questions. She just pulled me inside. "What's wrong?" she whispered. I placed the chest on her table and opened it, showing her the letters. She read the first few silently, her brow furrowing. "This is huge," she murmured. "If what your mom wrote is true, your family has been hiding something massive. Do you think they forced your dad out because of money?" "I don't know," I admitted. "But whatever it is, they didn't just erase him. They threatened her. They controlled her. And now they want this." I gestured to the chest. Emily placed a hand on mine. "Then we'll keep it safe together. You're not alone." Her words eased some of the weight on my chest. For the first time since the funeral, I didn't feel completely powerless. The next day, I returned to the lawyer's office. I needed answers. He looked startled when I barged in, clutching the chest. "My mother wrote things," I said, breathless. "Letters. About my family. About someone named Daniel. Did she tell you anything? Anything at all?" The lawyer hesitated. His eyes flicked to the chest, then back to me. "I'm not supposed to share private client matters," he said carefully. "But your mother did speak of regrets. She said her greatest mistake was letting her family dictate her choices. She mentioned a man named Daniel once. She cried when she said his name." I clenched my fists. "So it's true. He was real." The lawyer nodded slowly. "Very real. And from the way she spoke of him, I'd say he was the love of her life." My throat tightened. My mother had carried that love in silence all these years. Before I could ask more, his phone rang. He answered, listened, then frowned. "They're looking for you," he whispered after hanging up. "Your family. Be careful." That evening I read more of the letters, and that's when I found the second envelope. It was tucked beneath the stack, sealed in red wax, my name etched across the front. I broke the seal with trembling hands. Inside was a single sheet of paper. "If you've come this far, then you are ready to learn everything. But the truth cannot be told in letters alone. Go to the address on the back of this page. There you will find the rest. Be careful. They must not get to it before you." I flipped the paper over. Written there was an address I had never seen before. A house. The same house from the photograph. My pulse quickened. My mother had left me a path to follow. But as I folded the letter and tucked it into my pocket, the sound of glass shattering downstairs jolted me upright. Emily screamed. Heavy footsteps thundered inside. They had found me. The crash of glass echoed through Emily's apartment. She screamed again, and my blood turned to ice. "Hide it," I hissed, shoving the chest toward her. She pulled it under the couch just as the front door burst open. My Uncle Peter stormed in, his face red with rage, Lydia right behind him. "You think you can run from us?" he bellowed. "You think she loved you more than us? You're nothing. Hand it over." Emily stepped in front of me, shaking but defiant. "Get out. You don't belong here." Peter's lip curled. "This is family business. Stay out of it." His eyes scanned the room. For a moment, I thought he'd find the chest, but then his gaze fixed on me. He lunged forward, grabbing my arm so hard I cried out. "Tell me where it is," he growled. I fought to keep my voice steady. She left me nothing. That's what the will said. He tightened his grip. Liar. Lydia's eyes narrowed. He's hiding something. I can feel it. Emily's voice trembled but held firm. If you don't leave right now, I'm calling the police. Peter hesitated, rage flickering against caution. After a tense beat, he shoved me back and snarled, "This isn't over. We'll find it. And when we do, you'll wish you had cooperated." They stormed out, slamming the door so hard the walls rattled. I sank onto the couch, my arm throbbing. Emily crouched beside me, her eyes wide. "You can't stay here. They'll keep coming." She was right. The address on the letter burned in my pocket like a secret too hot to hold. Whatever truth my mother wanted me to find, it was time. The next morning, before the sun was fully up, we drove to the address. It was an old house on the outskirts of town, tucked behind rows of tall trees. The paint was peeling, the windows shuttered, but something about it felt alive, like it had been waiting. My hands shook as I unlocked the front door with the spare key my mother had taped to the letter. The air inside was stale, but not abandoned. The furniture was simple but intact. On the mantel above the fireplace sat a framed photo, my mother and the man from the earlier picture. Daniel. My breath caught. This had been their home, the place my family had erased from existence. Emily touched my shoulder gently. "Look." On the table in the center of the room was a second chest. Smaller than the first, but with the same brass corners and polished wood. A note lay on top. "For my child." At last. I opened it slowly. Inside were stacks of documents, bank records, deeds, legal papers, and letters. More letters. One of them was addressed to me. "My child." It read, "If you are here, you are ready to know the truth in full. Daniel was your real father. He loved you deeply, and he fought for us. But my family despised him, not because he was cruel or dangerous, but because he stood in the way of their greed. He refused to let them use our inheritance for themselves. He wanted it to go to people who needed it, orphans, schools, hospitals. He wanted to give, not hoard." My vision blurred as I read. "For that, they destroyed him. They spread lies, cut him out, and drove him away. I stayed silent to protect you, because they threatened to take you from me if I didn't obey. But I never stopped loving him. And I never stopped hoping you would one day learn the truth. That you come from love, not cruelty. That your true inheritance is not their greed, but his vision." I swallowed hard, my heart aching. All my life, I had believed my father abandoned me. But the truth was the opposite. He had fought for me. For us. At the bottom of the chest was a folder marked with my name. Inside were documents transferring ownership of this house, along with accounts Daniel had hidden away. Enough money to live on. Enough to build something real. And a final note. Use this not to destroy, but to create. Build something better. For yourself and for others. That is our legacy. Tears blurred my vision. My mother's voice was so clear, even from beyond the grave. But the moment of peace didn't last. The roar of engines outside shattered the silence. Through the window I saw them, my family. 2 cars pulling up, doors slamming. They had followed us. Emily's face went pale. "They're here." I shoved the papers and letters back into the chest and snapped it shut. My heart pounded as heavy footsteps thundered toward the door. Peter burst in first, his eyes wild when he saw the chest in my hands. "There it is," he snarled. "I knew you had it." Lydia smiled coldly. "Hand it over. Now." I backed away, clutching the chest to my chest. "This isn't yours. It never was. She left it for me." Peter's face twisted with rage. "Everything she had belongs to this family. You don't get to decide." For the first time, I didn't shrink back. I straightened, my voice firm. "No, that's exactly what she wanted, to keep it away from you. She trusted me, and I won't let you take it." Peter lunged forward, but Emily stepped in front of me, phone in hand. "I've already called the police. They're on their way. If you touch him again, it's over for you." Peter froze, his eyes darting between us. Lydia hissed, "This isn't the end. We'll see you in court." You think you can fight us? We'll drag you down until you have nothing. But her words felt hollow. For the first time, I wasn't afraid. Weeks passed. The legal battles began, just as they threatened. But the letters and documents my mother had left behind were undeniable. The lawyer stood by me, and with his help, the court upheld her will. My family screamed, argued, appealed, but they lost. The inheritance, the properties, the accounts Daniel had hidden, they were all transferred to me, just as my mother intended. And I followed her wish. I didn't waste it on revenge. I used it to build. Months later, Emily and I stood in front of a brand new community center in the heart of town. Children laughed in the playground beside it. Families gathered on the lawn. Above the entrance, a plaque gleamed, in loving memory of Daniel and Margaret, who chose love over greed. I felt tears prick my eyes. This was what my mother and father had wanted. Not power, not wealth, but a legacy of kindness. I wasn't alone anymore. I had their love, their vision, and a future built not on lies, but on truth. As I stood there, watching life bloom around me, I realized something. The box my mother hid for 20 years didn't just contain secrets. Contained freedom, contained hope, and now, at last, it was mine to carry forward.